So I'm going to keep this one short because I said I was going to be going through how I do branding and what I use it for, what I've used it for in the past. None of the fluffy stuff, just to be absolutely clear. It's not the stuff that marketers talk about. It's talk about the practical stuff you can use for a business. So those marketing operations, delivery, all of them get aligned because they've all off the same hymn sheet. And that was over the last decade, thereabouts, I have had some horrific experiences while trying. If you actually get this up front and you don't have this in place already, it can make your life so much easier. It can save 6, 7 figures because of some simple things that you've clarified. That's the only thing that I think is good for to begin with until you get to a certain size. You'll know when that becomes important. We'll start talking about how important the logo is if you are a business owner. Before that, honestly, most things are a waste of space, but not that, because it defines or asks you to define who you are, what your value is, what your mission is, who your audience is, whether they're unaware, aware, problem aware, solution aware, most aware, all that type of good stuff, which is basically, do they know you? No idea who you are, all the way to where technical people usually are, which is the last 3%, where they're looking for then fishing out in the ocean, doing scattershot stuff that they think will find people and attract them to them, and then they find out they're actually not a good fit, and they turn out to be possibly a terrible client, and the client's not happy with you either because you don't share the same base values. I know that that makes no difference when it comes to our offer, but it will do when it comes to a relationship. And ask any account manager that you know if that's not important. Right, so what I'm going to do is just going to share out my screen, and I'm just going to give you a quick look, see what this is going to look like next week. So here we go. This is going to go weird. Let's just hop that away. So these are brand pillars. Now, I have, of course, used AI to do this, and I've been doing that since I've been involved in automation and DevOps for 10 years, decade. I try and use any possible method when it comes to getting the boring stuff done by somebody else or by a machine. That then makes sense. Now, that's what I've done. So I've created something where I can actually go a document, that's the end result, it lists the audience, it goes through what the brand is itself, what our principles are, what our voice and tone should be for the business, and then the short version so everybody can actually read it and keep it in their heads. Our visual identity, that's simply colors, etc., that type of stuff. Topography, clothing style, imagery, makes total sense. But here we go. This is the interesting thing. Your offer principles. Now, this is where, for example, you may get people selling the dream, sales, marketing, etc., and nobody's actually talked to them. And they haven't talked to you because everybody's presuming that everybody else has asked somebody else, which I can guarantee more than likely. And I've walked into enough boardrooms to know, get 7 leaders in a room, you'll probably find at least 3 to 4 different opinions of what strategy should be and what the highest priorities are. That said, that's the output, and that you can then use as a filter with a bit of AI to then stop emails going out at 3 o'clock in the morning, which are not on brand, or somebody is saying something silly. It's just going to take a while to load. So let's see if we can get this. And I will just create a new chat. And then basically you can start like this, edit like here. So it's for your particular who I serve, and then it outputs that, and it gives you 18 different points, which populates something called who I serve, which is then this here. Why is that important? Because then you know what you are offering to whom and when and what and how it's going to be done and how people are going to talk about it. The people can use their professional background, their business summary, their key contributions, personal background, skills that they have, and then it gets into the weeds, which I'm not going to today. Because, and this is why I'm going to offer my apologies, is because tomorrow is Valentines, and my beautiful lady has sort of inferred, more than inferred, that I should be taking the day off. And this is why I'm not going to be doing this today. So I will be doing it next Thursday. I really apologize for that, but that is life. I've learned after one divorce, the only one in my life, that if you aren't happy at home, the rest of it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to take a bit of work-life balance, follow my own advice, and I am doing this next Thursday, where I'll run through the whole process from start to finish, demonstrate how it works, and then more importantly, how you can use it and how your teams can use it and how they can use that, if they wish to then act as a team on LinkedIn to not just get dead posts that get 3 likes and go nowhere and then produce no relevant leads from LinkedIn and don't make any handle any objections, etc., etc., etc. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to wrap this one up. I'm just going to show you what that looks like once it's produced. Yeah, it's gone, who I serve, and you just click continue. And it will go through and produce a profile of an unaware person. I call it perfect interested person. That's just because a normal human being can understand that rather than a marketer. But that would be an ICP if you are a marketer. For everybody else, it's just your perfect interested person. That doesn't mean they're aware of your product. It just means that that person is out there, and it's going to produce that based off the data that ChatGPT has collected for things like this. 100 million and counting so far. You've got to remember that if you have the free version of ChatGPT, which by the way, I'm not using, I'm using this in the company setting, then you are part of the product and it will use it for its training data, which is fantastic in this particular case because it is going to rattle out a profile that will be rather useful. That does not mean if you have customers that you would be using this thing as it is. It's just to list what the possibilities are, what should be collected, that you should then have available for sales, marketing, and everybody else, so that everybody knows, okay, this is for us, somebody who would be a really great customer. So, for example, a few years back now, we had somebody that was what I call a super referrer. They referred over 20 people, and those 20 people were just in the onboarding phase. That was not the service. So to matter, knowing stuff like this does matter. It stops you from ending up with just quite, they've been sold to purchase something and they're not happy because this stuff wasn't clear up front. I'm pointing at my screen over there, by the way, if you're looking at my hands. And with that, I'll wrap this one up. I'll get to it next week and we'll go through it in a very organized fashion next time. So this is just me giving a quick teaser what that looks like. And there are the 3 offers that I produce. You possibly would have more, but that's pretty much what it is. And there it goes. And that's just the beginning. The whole point of this is to then get to the point where you have something that you can use practically. That means if you have sales, if you have operations, if you have delivery, so that the perception is that when they talk to you, you've all been talking to each other, which isn't, we all know when a business scales, that isn't necessarily the case. Everybody's busy, everybody's got stuff to do. It's why there are different departments, but this helps to align everybody, at least from a customer facing perspective, so that everybody is singing off the same hymn sheet, at least from this perspective, so that the customer looks at you and said, okay, you're saying the same thing, rather than sales saying one thing, marketing saying something else, operations telling them something totally different. If you get this right, it will make that all go away, which can lower your risk, get you leads if you're in sales, make marketing's life a hell of a lot easier if you have marketing and they're not just there to produce fancy brochures. There are of a practical use. And when it comes to risk and getting clients that refer you, and more importantly, give you no negative reviews, then that's what this is for. And I'll see you next week.